Okay, so in the last session, we learned subqueries. Subqueries are like, we can also call them inner queries. Subqueries means queries within a query. So you will have a main query and then you will have an inner query. And in one inner query, you can have another inner query. And in that inner query, you can have another inner query. So like that, you can have multiple inner queries, and you will have a main outer query that will run when all your inner queries are ran, and they have a result. If any of your inner query results in no data found or null, then depending on the operator that you are using or the condition that you are using, you may or may not get any data. So last time, in the last session, we saw inner queries or subqueries in the where clause as well as in the having clause. We also saw single row subquery and multiple row subqueries. So single row subqueries are those queries which return only one row, and they have specific operators like equal to, not equal to, greater than, smaller than, greater than, equal to, smaller, smaller than, equal to, less than, equal to, and so on. You can have between as well, and you can have two subqueries, or you can have for lower range and higher range, or you can have one subquery for the lower range and a specific value for the higher range, or vice versa. For multiple row subquery, we saw in operator, because in operator gives you the option to choose from the set of results, right? So that way you can use multiple row subquery. Now we saw subqueries in the where clause as well as in the having clause. Where else can we put subquery? Can we put subquery in the order by clause? No, we cannot. You cannot put a subquery in the order by clause. Can I put a subquery in the select clause? Yes, you can put subquery in the select clause as well. So we saw where clause and having clause. We will quickly see, before we start today's session, we will quickly see a subquery in the select clause, and we will also see a subquery in the from clause. All right, so let's start our session with the subqueries first. All right, the session has expired, so I have to. All right, I'm back in, but I need to create all my tables and everything. Last time we were having some issues here. One error occurred. I don't know what is the error, because it doesn't say what error occurred. Maybe it's not able to run such a big statement. So let's run this first, and it worked. And then let's run this one, and that also worked. So there is no error, but it says some error. So that's definitely a problem with this environment. Anyway, so now we have all the tables. Let's see, how can I um, use an inner query or subquery in my from clause. So my from clause usually has an expression, has a table name. But when I'm saying that I can use a subquery in my from clause, right, that gives me goosebumps. Oh, how can I use a subquery in a from clause? What happens to the table then? There is no table, right? So how can you use that? Let's see that. So we have select, let's say we are doing select star from employees, right? And this gives us everything. So we'll select one of the department. Let's say this is giving me lot of results, right? Row 1 to 50. I have a condition where I want to uh, limit my number of rows, okay, based on some kind of a query, okay, and that can have multiple tables, that can involve multiple tables and things like that. So let's do this thing. Let's take multiple tables, okay. So let's take employee name, okay, which is first underscore name comma last underscore name, and then let's take job underscore id, and let's take department underscore name. Now definitely department underscore name is not present in employees table. Where it is present, it's present in the department table, right? Department. So we'll give a alias e here and departments d here, and we'll say on e dot department underscore id is equal to d dot department underscore id, right? Let's run this and see whether we get the result. Yes, we get the result. Now let's filter it down, because I want only those records which have department name as shipping and purchasing, and that's it. I don't want anything else. So I'll say where department underscore name, like I cannot use like because I have to use two. So I can use like, but I can do in, or I can do like and then I have to use or clause. So let's do in here, and then I use shipping, and shipping is in uppercase, so we'll give it as is, and then we have purchasing, right? So only two departments we are selecting here, right? We are selecting only two departments, shipping and purchasing. Now let's say based on these two departments, okay, this is my subquery, and based on these I want to select only I want to select those employees whose last name um, starts with letter B, okay, but only from this result set, okay. I don't want to query from the whole table. I want to do only from this result set, okay. Or let's say I want to select only those um, let's see what we have for departments, okay. Then we can, based on that, we can do some more query, okay. Let's say I want manager. I have a manager id as in the departments table as well, so let's add manager id also, okay. Let's add manager id also, and it says column ambiguously defined because I have manager id in employees table as well. So I'll say d dot department manager underscore id, right? Okay. Now from this result set, I want to select only, I want to see only those employees who are in purchasing, okay, who are in purchasing, or rather yeah, who are in purchasing, and their manager id is only 141, okay. So, and only from this result set, okay. So let's do that. So I'm saying select star from, okay, from this result set I want, okay. I don't want from anywhere else but from this result set. So I will make this as a inner query, okay. And now I don't have a table name, right? This has a table, this becomes as a table, okay. It's a virtual table, it's a invisible table, it's not physically present in the database, but just for this query purpose it will treat this as a table, this result set as a table, okay. So I'll give an alias to my table. Okay, and that way I can use that alias in my query if need be. So let's say I give this as query underscore table, for example. Okay, this becomes my table name. Okay, and then I say let's run only this. Okay, let's see what result we get, and see we get the exact same result, right? So right now I want to select, based on this, I want to select only job underscore id, job underscore id, okay, and department underscore name, okay, from this, and um okay, just these two. Okay, let's see whether I get the result or not. And I get the result. That means it is treating this whole thing as a table. Okay, now I can, this becomes my table name. I can use this table name right now, so I can prefix them, okay, to see if that works, right? I can use this as a table name, and see this becomes as my table. Now I got this table. Now what I can do is I can join another table to this table. So basically I can join another employee table, or maybe I can join a location table if I have a location table, because I have a location ID in my departments table, but I have not selected here. Since I have not selected here, I will not be able to use that location ID. But once I select here, that that column will become available for my table to use. Now what I can do is I can use another join, okay, another join like location, okay, and I can say on, and then I'll say uh, let's give this as uh, let's give location. Is it locations or is it location? Let's see if I have locations. So locations, and then let's do query underscore table dot location underscore id, and then comma, sorry, equal to locations dot location underscore id. Right now I haven't selected anything from the locations table, but I can select anything from locations table. Let's select something from the locations table. Let's see what column I have in location. So I have a street address or city. Let's select city. So we'll say locations dot city. Now you can see that I haven't used an alias, like a table alias, table name. So I'm just using a table name. It's not required because this column is not ambiguous, but I just used it. So it's your choice. See, I got city also. So that way this becomes my table, okay, one of the table, and then I can treat this as a table and join another table, or maybe do another subquery. I can do whatnot, right? I can do everything. This makes SQL so very powerful when you are analyzing big data, or anything of uh, uh, like a complex data, or you want to create some kind of some kind of analysis like cost based analysis, or revenue analysis, or profit analysis, something like that. You can do a lot of things here, right? So this becomes my table, so I don't even have to create a table here. Okay, and then I can actually what I can do is I can here. So if you see, like this everything is my table, right? And I see where is the where clause, but don't get confused with this where clause is for the inner query. Okay, so if I want another where clause, that becomes my where clause for the main query. So I can say where let's say I want to select only for let's say only for manager ID 121. Okay, so shipping will go away, only purchasing will come up, where d dot manager underscore id is equal to 120. okay, where D dot manager, but you know what, I cannot say D because D is in the inner query. Okay, where is the D column? D is in the inner query. So if I want to use manager underscore ID, I have to select that manager ID in my main query as well. Okay, since I'm not using that, I cannot, I don't have it, so I cannot use it. This will give me an error. Okay, let's run this. See, d dot manager ID is invalid identifier. Why it is invalid identifier? Because this d dot manager is not in my main query and I'm using it outside of my inner query. Let's do an indenting of this so that you can see properly how I am, what I'm doing and how this is going to be working. So let's do an indenting on this. So this is the actual query. So this is my one table, okay, and this is another table, and this one and this one is my main query. And in my main query, I am referencing D dot. Now, do I have D? I do not have D because D is in my inner query, so I cannot reference that, right? But if I select, let's say manager underscore ID, okay, so I'll say D dot manager underscore ID. I can use it now, but in that case, I cannot say D dot manager underscore ID. I cannot reference D. Instead, I have to reference this. Okay, and then I'll run it, and it is still giving me error because I cannot say D here. Okay, I have to say this. Okay, so I get my result. Okay, only for manager ID 121, and I am getting the result. Right now, why this is giving me so many duplicate rows? Because we haven't selected employee name. Okay, if we had selected employee name, it would be like multiple employees. Since we didn't have not selected employee name, it's not showing up here. So, but if let's say I want to select only unique ones, I'll say distinct, and it will give me only 3. So there are 3 job IDs based on my query. 3 job IDs are unique IDs are available. Okay, so that way we can use an inner query in the from clause as well. When you are using a from a clause, you should give an alias, because when you give an alias, you can use that alias later on. If I do not have, let's say if I do not use all these conditions, right, and I'm just selecting from this table whatever rows. Okay, so in that case, I am just going to say job ID, and then I need department name. Okay, and then I do not have location dot city, and let's say I want manager ID. Okay, then in that case, I do not even need to give a alias. Okay, but it is a good way of always giving an alias when you are using a subquery in the from clause, so that you will not get confused and you will not get errors, right? But of course, it is your choice. All right, so this is how we use inner query in the from clause. Now we will also see how I can use inner query in my select clause. Okay, in my select clause. For select clause, the inner query should be a single row inner query only. Okay, here in from clause, that inner query was a multiple row inner query because it was giving the whole result set like a table. But in select clause, it can only be a single row subquery. Okay, so let's do that. So let's say I want to select an employee name. Okay, um, first underscore name. Okay, and then I'll say space, and then I'll say last underscore name from employees, where let's say I want to select the top boss, so where manager underscore ID um, is null. Basically, there is no manager, right? So I got Stephen King. Stephen King is the person who has no who does not have any, who's the top boss. So I got Stephen King, right? Now, along with Stephen King, I want to know who is the um, another person, let's say, or let's say how many employees he has under him. Okay, how many employees he has under him. So that's I want to put it on a report. So for that, I want to select the whole the count of number of employees, right guys? So let's do that. Okay, let's select the count of employees. So now here I want to do what? Count of employees. This is what I need to show, count of employees. Now how can I show that count of employees? So in order to do that, I can use another inner query. Okay, so here I'm going to use another inner query. Select count star from, now see I'm again using employees table. Okay, select count star from employees, and that's it, right? And I'll give the name and alias to my this query. Okay, I have to give a name, otherwise it will give me an error. So I'll say number of employees, under this guy. Okay, and then oops, and then I'm just going to run this. Okay, and it gives me 107. Now is this 107 number correct? No, it is not correct. Why? Because I'm saying select count star from employees. When I'm saying count star from employees, it counts Stephen King also. Okay, it has counted Stephen King also, but I want how many number of employees are under him. Okay, not including him. So in that case, what I can do, I have two options. One is I can say -1. Okay, that will give me 106, right? That's one way. Another way is I'll just put a where condition here, where, and I'll say for example I will say where this manager ID, where manager underscore ID is not null, right? Now our assumption is only one person doesn't have a manager, right? All other have managers. So that way we'll get 106, right? So that's another way of doing it. Now I can also refer okay this with my main query. So in that case I'll give an alias like e in the main query table. Okay, and this guy, let's give this guy as e1. Okay, or let's say this, give this guy e2 and give this guy e1. Okay, and then what I can do is I can say, let's say I want to do something where I want to print what is the what is the, because he doesn't he has a department, right? He must be having a department. Let's see if this guy has a department. Select star from employees where manager ID is null, and we'll just say show me the department underscore ID. Okay, let's see if this guy has a department. So he has a department which is 19. Okay, cool. So let's say I want to show here the department name. Okay, and I don't want to do a join between the two tables, rather, because if I do a join between the two tables, let's say my query is very big with lot of joins, I don't want to join one more just for one row, just for one column to show the department name. Okay, so I don't want to do that. So what I can do is I can use the use of inner query. So here I'll just say department underscore name from employees to, right? If I do not use where clause here, okay, it's going to give me all the department names, and that will give me an error. Okay, let's see, that will give me an error. Why? Because it will say department name is, first of all, department name is invalid, so that's another mistake. Okay, so let's do D. Okay, let's see. Okay, single row subquery returns more than one row, so it's going to give me an error, right? Now what I can do is I have to use a where clause here. Okay, I have to use a where clause to see what is the department of this guy, only this guy. Okay, so in that case I'll say where D dot department underscore ID is equal to E1 dot department underscore ID, right? See how I'm using D is this guy, D dot department underscore ID is equal to E1 department underscore ID. So I'm using the, what I'm doing, I'm comparing with your main query, with your outer query, I am doing a comparison, right? Within the inner query. Now, I can only do this with the immediate inner query. Had there been another inner query here, right, then I could not use the main outer queries reference. Then in that case, I have to use this guy's inner reference. So every time, whenever I'm doing a reference or I'm doing some kind of a comparison in the inner query and the outer query, then it has to be immediate outer queries comparison. It cannot be two level outer query or something like that, right? All right, let's do that. And okay, let's do that. And here we go. So Stephen King, and he is the executive, right? So we got that. So that way we can use select inner query in the select clause as well. These two were not there in the presentation, so that's why I just showed you guys that we can do this as well. Let's start today's session now. Day 8. Do you guys have any doubts, or shall we start day 8? All right, so let's start day 8 now. We have three more operators. These are set operators. Okay, we call them as set operators. Okay, what do they do? So these set operators, and why do we use them? So there can be a situation where you want to select a number of rows from one table, and then number of rows from another table, and you want to uh, join them together in as a one result set. Okay, and we'll see examples. We'll see examples how do we do that, right? So that's when you will be using set operator. Or let's say you want to have you have this select star from employees, but you want to minus, or uh, only purchasing department employees. So you want all the employees, but you don't want purchasing department employees and shipping department employees. Then you can use the intersect also. You can of course use minus as well, but you can use you can also use where clause as well, but you can use minus here. All right, so what are set operators? Set operators combine the results of two or more component queries into one result set. Okay, so it combines two or more queries result into one result set, and that's the main function. So queries containing set operators like these are also called as compound queries, because it's basically compounding the multiple queries into one. So these are also called as compound queries. Now we have three set operators. Actually, we have four. One is union, then union all, then we have intersect, then we have minus, right? So what does union do? Union, when we are using union, which is this guy, okay, when I'm saying um, union all, which is this guy, okay, then it gives me rows from both the queries, including the duplicate rows. Okay, it gives me rows from both the queries, including the duplicate ones. When I'm saying union, then it gives me rows from both the queries, but it exclude duplicates. So basically it brings uh, those duplicate rows, it will show only one time, so it will not show multiple times. So if it is already present from table A, it won't show up in from table B. Okay, so that's the only difference between union and union all. Union, when I'm using union, it gives me rows from both queries after eliminating duplicates. If I'm using union all, it gives me the rows from both queries, including all duplicate rows. Now, what is intersect? Okay, intersect gives me rows that are common to my both queries. Now, this is my A query, and then I have a B query. It gives me only those rows which are common between A query and B query, right? What is minus? Minus gives me rows in the first query that are not present in the second query. So it gives me rows from A query only which are not present in the B query. So basically what it will do, if there are rows which are also available in B query, it will eliminate that. Okay, so this, let's say this was available, so it will eliminate this. All set operators have equal precedence. So there is no precedence how you are using it, like union first or intersect first, doesn't matter, right? It has same precedence. All right, let's see how this works. Okay, now before we do that, we'll have some guidelines. Okay, so we'll see what are the guidelines of using them. Okay, so these are certain guidelines. The expression in the select list of the queries must match in number and data type. Okay, so that means if I'm using 3 columns in my first query, and 2 of them are number and 1 is a character column, then in my second query it has to be 3 columns. 2 should be number, 1 should be character. Exact data type, exact match in the list. Queries that use union and union all and intersect and minus operators in the where clause must have the same number and data type of the columns. Okay, so it should have the same data type as well, right? Then the second is set operators. We can use them in the subquery as well. Okay, we need to use parentheses to alter the sequence of execution. In the order by clause can come only one time, and that will come at the end of your whole query. So yeah, let's say you have one query, then you have the set operator, then you have another query, then at the end you will put order by clause. Okay, if you need to put order by clause, then you will put order by clause at the end of both the queries. All right, let's see how this works. Ooh, sorry. Okay. So as we already mentioned, duplicate rows are removed from the union all, and the output is sorted in the ascending order of default, by default, except in union all. So we'll see how that works. Okay. Now here for this lesson, we will be using one new table, which is a job history table. Okay, and I have already created that table. I'm going to send you the script for that table as well. So this table, what it does is it has records for employees who have switched between one job ID to another. So let's say I was working as a sales representative earlier in sales representative department, whatever department it was, marketing probably. So I was working as a sales representative from 2015 to 2017. Then from 2017 to 2019 or till present, I switched from sales representative to IT. Okay, I did some IT courses and I switched myself from IT because, of course, because IT pay is more. So I switched to IT. So this job history, this records the details of the start date and end date of the former job and the job identification number, which is the job ID, and the department when an employee switches the job. Okay, so that's the job history table that we are going to be using um, for for the purpose of our set operator course. All right, so let's see how we use the union operator. Okay, now we are using union operator. When you are using union operator, it will, what it will do, it will eliminate the duplicate rows, right? Because what we are doing, we are not using union all, we are using here we are using union. Okay, so it will not show me the duplicate rows because union operator eliminates any duplicate records. Okay, so if a record occurs in the employees table and in the job history, right? Let's say, for example, I switched my job from sales rep to IT, then I should be having two records in the job history table and one record in the employees table, right? If I say union all, then I will come three times, which is incorrect. So if I use union, then I will come only two times. Let's see, let's run this and see how that works. Okay, so here when I'm running this, I see lot of rows actually. Yeah, I see lot of rows. How many? I have more than 150. So basically, I see lot of rows. Lot of people have switched from from one department to another department and so on. So that's why I see lot of rows here. So if you see here, for example, 101 was AC manager, and now he is also an AD VP, right? Similarly, 102 is AD VP and 102 is IT program. Now you can see here that it has eliminated the duplicates. Let's see by adding duplicate union all and see what happens. So when I say union all, okay, let's see if it does the it shows me any duplicates. So 200 and 101 IT 101 103 4 5 6 7. I do not see any duplicate here. Okay, I do not see any duplicate, but there is a way to find out. Okay, and select. Okay, employee, actually we'll say select job underscore ID, comma, count of, oh actually that will also not give me the right answer. So let's say job, let's say employee ID, employee underscore ID, comma, job underscore ID, comma, count star from. Okay, this becomes my whole subquery from this. Okay, where, and then I have to use what? I have to use group by, right? Where group by these two guys. Okay, this will give me if I have any duplicate. So you can see, oh, it is giving me everything. So then I'll put a having clause. Having, I want to see only those which have duplicate. So count a star is greater than 1. That way I can get, so I have two duplicates here. A employee ID 200 and 176. Okay, employee ID 200 and 176. Let's see those two guys, 200 and 176. Okay, let's run only these two and see. Let's see, employee ID 200 is AD AST, and then there may be 200 again somewhere. So let's do an order by 1. Oh yeah, it does not take positional order by. Okay, so you'll have to say order by employee ID here. Actually it should take the positional. Okay, now let's see, we get 200. One was 176 and another one was 200. So let's say employee ID and then let's say DSC. So 200, I got 200. See, it is showing me this guy two times, probably one from the job history and one from the employee table. Okay, so one from the job history and one from the employee table. But if I remove union, okay, all, and then run it, let's see if it still shows me 200 3 times. So it's now showing me 200 only 2 times. Okay, so that's how union all works. Okay, so when do we use set operators? When we want to combine result of two queries, or maybe more than two queries, multiple queries, into one result set. So here I wanted to know how many of my employees, give me the list of all the employees, departments, or maybe job IDs that my employees have ever had. Okay, my employees have ever had. So that way, first of all, I need to query my employees table and see how many employees are there, because that's a present scenario, right? This is the employees table is presently those employees are in my company and where, in which department they are working. So it will give me that result set. And then to know their past history, I need to query job history table. So for that, I can combine these both two using the union operator. Okay, and if I use the union using the union operator, if I use the union operator, then it will give me all the employees which will have switched departments. But it will, what it will do, it will eliminate the duplicates. Okay, but if I want to see the duplicates also, then I will add union all. Okay, generally people make mistake and then they use union all, and then it gives them incorrect result. So always remember what your analysis requirement is, whether you want union all or whether you want union. All right, let's move on to the next one. So this is the union all, exactly same. See, they did the order by employee ID, exactly same what we did. And with the union all, they get the result. If you want, I can rerun this. They just added the department ID as well here, which we did not. And it just adds the department ID also. Okay, so union all gives us all the rows, including the duplicate ones. Okay, that's the only difference between union and union all. Okay, now we have, next is the intersect operator. Okay, now what does intersect operator do? Okay, I already mentioned that intersect operator I use when I want to return all rows that are common to both the queries or multiple queries. Okay, only the common rows. Okay, so this is what we did earlier to find out how many employees were common. Okay, so we did this way, right? We added a query here, and then we added like this union all, and then this a main outer query, right? This exactly same result we could also obtain using the intersect operator. Okay, this query is actually, it's going to give me it's going to consume more time than the intersect operator. Why? Because first it will run this query, then it will run this query, right? Then on top of that it will run this query. Okay, plus on top of this it has a group by. Okay, group by always take more time because it subdivides the result set into multiple groups. And on top of that I have a having clause. So this query is actually very costly query. Okay, if I have a big data set, like big database, it is going to cost me a lot. Okay, so if my intention is to get only those rows which are common in both the queries, okay, then instead of doing this, what I would rather do is I will use intersect operator. Okay, I'll rather use just the intersect operator, and I will run this. Oops, oh, did I change everything? Yeah, all right. So I did the intersect. Why it's showing me 2? Because I did not select this and I ran everything. Okay, so I did the intersect operator. So now you can see this query is also giving me the same result what I did earlier, but this is much simpler. Number one, then it uses less memory, then is not as costly as my previous one. So depending on how I want it, I can use them. Now there are certain guidelines. Okay, the guideline is the number of columns and the data types of the columns being selected in the select clause should be identical. Okay, so basically when I'm saying employee ID and job ID, it should be identical. It could be different column, but the data type should be identical and the number should be identical. So for example, I can use, I'm just giving you an example. This will give me a wrong result. Okay, I mean incorrect result. It will run the query, but it will give me incorrect result. So what I did is job ID and employee ID here, and employee ID and job ID here. So it will merge job ID with the employee ID. But my job ID is number. It's not number, so it's going to give me an error. Okay, because this is a number field, this is a character field, this is a character field, and this is a number field. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to combine them together. So it will not be able to combine. It's always going to give me an invalid statement. Why? Because expression must have the same data type as corresponding expression. Okay, so it's always going to give me an error. But let's say I change this to manager ID. Okay, now, and this guy to, let's say I change this guy to probably last underscore name. Okay, so now I have two columns here. I have two columns here. My guideline number one meets. Then this guy is a number field. This guy is also a number field. This guy uh, is a character, and this is also a character. So that way my second guideline also meets. Okay, and oh, job history doesn't even have a last name. Last name is here. So we'll use last name here and job ID here. Do we have a manager ID in job history? Probably not. We do not have a manager ID also in job history. What do we have? We have dates. So we have employee ID, job ID. We have a department ID actually. So let's use a department ID here. Okay. So now this is number, this is number, this is character, this is character. I have two columns selected in my first query. I have two columns selected in my second query. So my guidelines meet. Let's run this, and department. See, no data found. Why no data found? Because I'm intersecting, I'm trying to find the common data between the two. Definitely there won't be any common data, because one I'm selecting employee ID and last name, and second I'm selecting department ID and job ID. So it's intersect will not will give no data found, but I can do union if I want to merge them. Okay, and see, it gives me the result. So this department, this is actually department ID 20, 50, 60, 80. These are all department ID, and then it starts showing me the employee ID 100, 101. These are my like employee IDs. Okay, and the employee name, and I merged them with together with the department name and the employee name. Okay, so that way I use this. Also, I use this sometimes when I want to select, when I want to convert columns to rows and rows to columns. Okay, then at that time also I use this operators to convert my columns to rows and rows to columns if that is a need. Okay, let's see. We have intersect. Okay, so this gives me the intersect gives me the only those rows that are common to both of them, right? So that's what it shows. Okay, and it says display, we are displaying the employee ID and job ID of those employees who currently have a job title that is the same as the previous one. That is, they change jobs but have gone back to doing the same job they did previously. Okay, so that's why it is available in the employee also, employees table also. So they had, so Basically I was a sales representative, then I moved to IT, then I said no, I don't like IT, I moved back to sales representative. So in that case it's going to give me the result for those duplicate ones, only duplicate ones. So that's why it's giving me those duplicate ones. All right, let's go ahead and see what is the next one. Okay, now the next operator I have is the minus operator. Okay, minus operator, what it gives me is, we learned union merges the two columns, two queries, okay, and gives me the result set after combining both the queries, results of both the queries. Intersect gives me only the duplicate ones. So basically my first query, and then whatever duplicate I have in the second query, it gives me only those ones. It removes the unique records. It gives me only duplicate records. That is the intersect. And what does minus do? Minus is same as a mathematical minus basically. So you have query 1 and then you have query 2, and then what I do, I say query 1 minus query 2. Okay, so that way it gives me only those records which are not available in query 2, which are only present in query 1. Okay, so let's run this and see what result I get. Okay, so it's giving me these employees, right? It's giving me all these employees. We can select the employee name also. Let's say uh, first underscore name. Okay, and do I have a name in employee in my job history? I do, right? In my job history, I do not have a name. I just have an employee ID. Okay, I just have an employee ID. So I do not have a name. So we cannot do the name here. If we want, we can add another subquery, or we can add a main query, or we can combine two tables. Like for example, this will give me the name but this won't, so I will combine this with the employee table and get the employee ID. Okay, so it is giving me employee ID. Employee ID of what? It is giving me employee IDs of all those employees who have not changed their job at even at once, who have not switched between the departments. Only those employees. Okay, only those employees who have not switched jobs. So union, when we did union, it was giving me all the employees who have uh, who have switched their jobs previously, or and their job ID, and also what's their current position is, also that, right? When I used union, when I used union all, it also gave me um, uh, uh, the duplicate ones, right? So if I switched my job multiple times, and I switch back to my original position, then it gives me that result as well. Intersect gives me only those which are duplicate. Okay, only those which are duplicate. So if I switched my job and then I come back to the same job, that gives me only that result set, right? And the minus gives me, in this query, minus is giving me only those employee IDs who have not changed their job or switched their job at all. Okay, only those. So that is the minus. Okay, so minus is basically subtracting the query first to with the query second. So that is the minus operator. All right, guys, so what we have learned here is there are certain guidelines for this. The guideline one is your number should match, the number of items, columns that you have selected should match, and then the data types of those columns should also match. Okay, now we must have seen here, uh, when we ran this query, where we did let's see if that query is available. If I say Control Z, and yeah, this particular query, right? So what I'm doing is I'm merging employee ID and last name with department ID and job ID, right? That's what I'm doing. But what will be my column name? Okay, my column name will always be the column name of the first query. So see, my column name is employee ID and column name is last name. So my column name is always the column name of the first query. Okay, so you'll always have to remember that. Okay, now I'm going to show you some tricks of this, because that will be very handy when you are creating reports for your analysis purpose. Okay, so when we are doing the matching the select statement, right? So because, let's say, because the expression in the select list of queries should match in the number. Okay, what I can do is I can create some dummy columns. Okay, I can create some dummy columns. Let's take this as an example. Okay, and see how that works. Okay, so let's delete this, and this is a trick. Okay, this will be very handy when you are creating some kind of reports and you have a need of merging two columns or two queries or three queries, whatever. But in the first query you want to select only, but basically you want to select, let's say, only three columns. Okay, and in the second query you do not even have a third column, for example. Then what do you do? In that case you will do this way, right? So here what I'm doing is I'm creating the dummy columns here. So here in this example, the name warehouse location, okay, the name warehouse location is actually a dummy column heading. Okay, because you can see that I am just saying null, it's a dummy column heading, but I am using to underscore char function. Why? Because why I have to use to underscore char function? Because my other query is a character column. Okay, is a character based column, which is state province. State province is a character column. So to match or to qualify as my second guideline, I have to convert my data type from null to character. So that's why I'm using to underscore char. Let's see. Let's run this and see how that works. So I'm running this. Okay, and now you can see that for what I'm doing is I'm selecting location ID and the department name, okay, on those on that location, and then also the warehouse location. Okay, now this location ID and department name I am selecting from the departments table. Okay, and location ID and state province I am selecting from the locations table. Now locations table does not have department, but I need to print department also. Okay, so in that case what I do, in that case I have created a dummy column. Okay, this is my dummy column, to underscore char null, and I created a dummy column warehouse location. Okay, that way I can merge as many number of columns as I want as my dummy column. Okay, so you can see in the location ID, then department name from the first column, first query, and then the third query um, is my dummy column. And in my second query, my location ID, my first column is actual column, but my second column is a dummy because I do not have a department in locations, so I said dummy, and then I use state province. Okay, so that's how I can use this trick in order to merge it. Because let's say if I just use null. Okay, this is also null. You can use like this, or you can just say null. Okay, it's your choice. If I just say null, okay, and run here for the state province, it should actually have given me an error. But let's say I use one instead of this. See, it's giving me an error. Expression must have the same data type. Now why? Because my this, which is my third column, okay, which is my third column, here it is a number, and in my second query it is a character, so it is giving me an error. Okay, so it has to match with the uh, with the same data type. So I can do this to underscore char one. Okay, that way it will give me the correct result. It will run the query. Why? Because I am converting this number to character so that it can match with this guy. All right. Now let's say I want to print location ID and department name on the from the first, and then I want to uh, print location ID and state province from the in the second, but my heading, my column heading should say state province and department. How can I do that? Right? I cannot do that unless and until I create a dummy column. Okay, so that's why I create a dummy column. This is a trick because it comes very handy when I'm using it. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and see another trick. Okay,
Please, can you, sorry, please, can you repeat your explanations concerning the dummy column?
yeah, come again. What were you saying?
Like, repeat your explanations concerning the dummy column one more time, please.
Okay, yeah. So okay, so let's say I want to select the employee name, okay, and employee name and like first name, department ID, and the department name. Okay, employee name, employee ID, and the department name, right? So how can I do that? I want to merge the queries. So what I'm going to do is I'll say select, okay, first name, first underscore name, comma, and then department ID. I said department ID, and then I need to select department department name, right? From employees, right? Now this will give me an error. Why? Because I do not have a department name here. I have a department name in my department table, but I want to merge the two queries. Okay, so because I do not have a department name in this query, I'll just use a dummy column here. Okay, if I use a dummy column, basically what I'm doing is I'm just saying null and print the department name. Okay, so it's creating a dummy column here. It's creating a dummy column. Everything will be null, but it just created a dummy column. Department name as a dummy column. Like that, I can create any number of columns, right? It's a dummy column, or I can use an expression, for example. Okay, expression we have already seen how we use expression as a dummy column. That does not exist in the database in the table, but we use them to produce the result. So you guys have already seen that. So for example, we did salary multiplied by 12, right? And I said annual underscore cell. Is there annual underscore cell column available in the table? No, it is not. But in this query, it creates a dummy column, an annual cell with the calculation. Similarly, it creates a dummy column with a null. Okay, so why I'm doing that? So that I do not get the error when I merge the another table with the department name, and I want to show the department name. Okay, so I'm saying union, and then I will say I want to use a department name. So for the first name, do I have a first name in the department? No, I do not. So I'll say null. Okay, and it's my choice if I want to give an alias or not. Okay, let's say I give an alias test1 whatever, or dummy1, I don't care, dummy1 comma. Okay, and then do I have a department ID in department column? Yes, I do have a department ID in department column. So I said department underscore ID comma, and I have a department name. So I'll say department underscore name, department underscore name. Okay, and then I say from departments, right? And then I run this, and when I run this, you can see it shows me the first name of and their department ID, like the employees. And then at the end, because I have so many, it's not showing up, but at the end then it shows me the departments also. So let's limit my number of results, number of rows. That's my first query is returning. So let's say where department underscore ID is equal to 30. I hope 30 does not have um, lot of records. Yeah. So see, these are the employees who are in the department ID 30. So along with that, I also want to print all the departments. Okay, all the departments. So I'm printing all the departments that are available, and along with that, I am also printing these guys who are in department ID 30. Okay, how I could do that? By using the department name, because if I do not use a department name, let's say if I delete this, I do not have a department name, and then I run this, okay, it's going to give me an error. Okay, it's going to give me an error because my third query has second query has 3 records and the first has only 2. Now I can delete this, okay, but then my first name will merge with the department ID and not with the department ID to department ID. So that will be a problem, which I don't want. I want to show them separately. Okay. All right. Did it get clear, Emmanuel?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is another trick what we learned. Here, let's see what else do we have. Okay, matching the select statement example. Okay, so this is the same what we have already seen, but we'll see one more time as an example. So what if I want a query to display the employee ID, job ID, and salary using the union operator, knowing that the salary exists only in the employees table, right? So salary exists only in the employees table. So I want a job ID, employee ID, and salary. Okay, and from the job history, okay, I want employee ID and job ID because I do not have a salary, right? So basically, what I'm trying to do here is, this is the same thing what we have already learned, creating a dummy column. Okay, we are creating a dummy column here. So let's say this is what I'm trying to do. I want to print employee ID, job ID, and salary of all my employees. Okay. Now, along with that, I also want to print employees switched, who have switched from one job ID to another job ID. So if somebody was a sales representative before and now he is an IT because he switched, okay, I want his sales representative value as well. Okay, in that case, I will do this, right? I will do employee ID and job ID from job history. That way, I will get his previous job ID as well, right? His previous job ID as well. But in my job history table, I do not have a salary column, and I do not know at that time how much he was drawing. Right now, how much he is drawing, I know that. How much he was drawing in 2015, 2016, I don't know. And I don't keep a track. Why? Because it's irrelevant to me. Because salary keeps changing. You get bonuses, your salary you get hikes and things like that. There's no way, and to keep track of that much data, right? It's irrelevant to me. So how do I print employee ID, job ID, and what is the current salary of the person, and also what his whether he switched before or not. I wanted to show that as well, right? So in this case, what I am doing is I am creating a what I'm doing, I'm creating a dummy column. I can create a null dummy column. Okay. If I create a null dummy column, it's going to show me like null, or I can create a literal like 0. Okay. My choice, just to show that, the salary wasn't available at that time, or I do not have a salary for that position because it's a old position, right? So I can do any of these things. but I have to create a dummy column so that it can match with the number of columns selected in the first query. So let's say I select 0, okay, and I run this, and it gives me the result set. Now you must have noticed I just said 0. I did not even put an alias here. Why I did not put an alias? It is my choice. I can put an alias. I can say whatever www. I don't care. Okay. But even if I put an alias, my query does not make any difference. Why? Because it's always going to take the column name from the first table, first query. So it is taking the column name from the first query, and because the first query has a column name as salary, it is showing me salary. So even if I put a alias or I do not put an alias, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's not going to show me that column name anyway. Okay, so that's how I get the that's the trick that we can use in order to achieve some kind of a result set that we need, and or maybe run create a report, and we do not have enough number of rows in my other query, right? Okay, now using the order by clause in set operations. We haven't seen the order by. I think we saw an order by earlier, but we'll see again. So how can we use the order by clause in the set operations? The order by clause can be used only once in the compound query. We cannot use it multiple times, like order by for the first query, order by for the second query. No, the order by clause can only be used only once in the compound query. If used, the order by clause must be placed at the end of the query, okay, at the end of the whole compound query, right? The order by clause, again, it accepts the column name or an alias as well. Order by clause is not changed. It is exactly same, okay? By default, the output is sorted in ascending order, okay, of the first uh, column that you have selected. Okay, so let's run something. Let's see how that works. So let's say I want to order by, right now it is a default, it is ordering by employee ID. So by default it will give me an order of using the employee ID, the first column. Okay, if I just run this query, it does, and do not give an order by, it is going to give me result from like a random result. It doesn't do the order by. If I run only this query, it gives me result in the random order, it does not give an order by. But if I'm using a set operator, it always orders by using the first column, okay, by default in ascending order. But let's say I want to order by job ID. Okay, I want to order it by job ID. Okay, so in that case, what I need to do is I need to say order by, okay, job underscore ID. Okay, and this is coming only at the end. I'm not putting parentheses, nothing. I'm just saying order by job ID, and that's it. And it does the order by job ID. Okay, I can also, if I have an alias, for example, let's say I have an alias, whatever, some alias, or just say job. Okay, my alias, I can just say job here. Okay, and then run it. See, it changed to job and it again gives me the same result, right? So it takes an alias also. It does take the positional column as well. Okay, so let's say I say 2, order by 2, and then I run it, and see it changed, but it gives me the same result. Why? Because it takes the order positional also. So order by clause is not changed. The only guideline is I cannot put order by multiple times. Okay, it does not make sense to put order by multiple times. It's going to give me error. SQL command not proper, because it thinks that order by is the last clause of your query, and this is one query. Okay, so your order by should be at the end. All right. Okay, let's see we have a quiz, and then we'll start something from the next day course also. All right, identify the set operator guidelines. Guys, you can unmute yourself. So we need to identify the set operator guidelines. The first, it says the expression in the select list must match in number. Second is parentheses may not be used to alter the sequence of execution. The data type of each column in the second query must match the data type of its corresponding column in the first query. The order by clause can be used only once in a compound query unless a union all operator is used. So what is right?
Oh, expression in the selected list must match in number one.
Okay.
Parenthesis.
That's it. Emmanuel, you have any idea?
The data type of
One is good.
in the second
The,
query.
the three looks good. The four, because of the union, all I'm confused.
3 looks good
Let's
to
see.
me. 3 is true to.
Because
Okay.
the four, say you use the order by with a union all. So I don't see it. So I go with 1 and 3.
Okay, so you guys are right. The answer is 1 and 3. One is the expressions in the select list must match in number, and then the second says parentheses may not be used to alter the sequence of execution. No, we can always use parentheses to change the sequence of execution. Let's say I have 4 union all or 2 union all and then intersect. I can always put the parentheses between the queries and change the execution. So this is wrong. Then it says third is the data type of each column in the second query must match the data type of its corresponding column in the first query. Yes, that's right. It should match the data type. And then the fourth, it says the order by clause can be used only once in a compound query. Up to here, it is right. Okay.
Okay.
But then it says comma unless a union all operator is used. No, it doesn't matter whether you use union all, intersect, union, minus, doesn't matter. Okay. The order by clause should always be your last clause. All right. And it should only be used once. Okay.
So we got.
Yeah, go ahead.
I said we got our first question. Thumbs up, Shika.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. That means you guys are paying attention. I like it. Okay. Uh, Now we'll see some uh, few more things. Now these, whatever I'm going to show you now, these are not part of data analysis. You will not use these for your analysis purpose. But if you are a business analyst, you should know them, because so that you can whenever you are dealing with developers and things like that, you should know these things. Also, for SQL, you should have an idea about these new things. Okay, so what I'm going to show here is I'm going to show you uh, data manipulation language. Okay, and data definition language. So before we do that, we have learned SQL, right? We are learning SQL. Okay. Now SQL is divided into multiple languages. Okay. Within SQL, we can have multiple languages. Like these are nothing but they have just given them as a name. So certain number of statements they give them as one name, certain number of statements they give as some other name, and then they say okay language, right? But basically it is nothing but the whole thing is SQL only. So when I am creating any table, okay, if I'm creating any table or any view or any object in my database using the SQL, that those statements, create statements, are called data definition language, DDL. Okay, these are called data definition language. If I am using any SQL statement to update a table, basically to to change the to update the table, meaning I am updating the rows in the table. So for example, as I mentioned earlier, somebody's name is changed because they got married and they changed the name. Somebody's name is changed and now you want to update the name, so you will update it in the table itself, right? So for that, those are called data manipulation language. So when you are updating, when you are inserting a new record, okay, when you are inserting a new record, or when you are deleting a record, okay, all these three, when you are deleting a record or deleting the whole table, all these three statements, when you run, these are called data manipulation language. Okay, why? Because I am manipulating my data. That's why it's called data manipulation language. When I'm creating an object in the table, this is called data definition language. Why it is called definition? Because I am creating something, so it's a definition. So data definition language, data manipulation language. And then we have one more, which is transaction control language. When we are, but that is used only for in Oracle, when we want to commit something. This is out of our syllabus, so we are not going to learn this. Then the last we have is the query language. Okay, query language, which is nothing but the select statement, what we have already seen. Okay, what we have already seen, that is the query language. All right, so erase all drawings, and then let's see. So first is our data manipulation language. So a data manipulation language is basically a statement that that I execute when I want to add new rows, insert, when I want to modify an existing row in a table. That means I'm manipulating, I'm updating. Guys, please mute yourself. And then the third is removing existing row, basically deleting some record. Okay, so for these I use data manipulation language. Okay, all right. Now inserting a new row. Okay, when I'm inserting a new row in the table, okay, this is my syntax. When I'm inserting a new row, okay, this is my syntax. I have to say insert, and you guys don't have to learn this, because when you are going as an analyst or working as an analyst, the assumption is that you will already have a database, you will already have number of records, you will already have tables created, the whole production environment or development environment, whatever environment you guys will be working on, you will have that environment ready so that you can do the analysis. Okay, your job is not to create a table or insert records or delete records. Either records are inserted using a front end, or records are inserted when developers insert the records, okay, or they write the code to insert the record, or write the code when they develop the front end environment, right? So your job is not this, so you will not be using this often. And nowadays, as we saw yesterday, nowadays these IDEs, like the development environment, like yesterday what we saw, SQL developer, those are so strong that when you are inserting a record, you can just use wizards, okay, to insert the records. So you don't even have to write these queries, but it is good to know the at least the syntax. So the syntax is, I'm saying insert because if I'm inserting into, okay, this is like similar to your from, okay, into which table I'm inserting into departments table, and then I open a bracket, parenthesis, and in the parenthesis I will list all the column names in my department table. Okay, all the column name, it doesn't matter the sequence of the column name. I can say department ID first, or I can say department name first, department ID second, but it should have all the column names. Okay, if it does not have a column name listed here, and in the values I do not pass the value for that particular column name also, then it may or may not give you an error. It will give you an error if that is a mandatory column, that means it is a required column. and you do not give the value to it, then it will give you an error and it will say, oh, this is a mandatory column, you must put the value. But if it is not a mandatory column, then it will just insert null there. So for example, commission percent, if I'm saying insert into employees, employee ID, blah blah blah, commission and I don't put commission percent there, and in the values also I do not pass commission percent value, then what happens, it just inserts a row with commission percent as null, right? But if I say the same thing, like if I remove department ID, for example, from here, if I remove the department ID from here, okay, like this, okay, and I remove 70 also, which is my department ID, okay, I remove this, okay, I'm just putting the department name, manager ID and location ID, then this will give me an error. Why? Because department ID is a primary column and it cannot have null values. So I must pass the department ID. Okay, so this is the syntax. So I'm enclosing this in the parenthesis. I'm my column names, department ID, department name, manager ID, location ID in my department, and then I'm passing the values. 70 is for my department ID. Okay, now I do not have to enclose this in a single quote. Why? Because this is a number field. Okay, so I just can pass 70. All the characters and date columns, I have to enclose them in the single quotes. So I'm enclosing this public relations, which is my department name. And who is the manager ID for this department? 100. What is the location ID of this department? 1700. So I'm passing this exact as is. And when I run this, see, it is giving me an unique constraint department ID violated. Why? Because this 70, I must already be having 70. Okay, I must already be having 70. So because department ID is a primary column, it has to be unique and it has to be not null. So I cannot have 70. Let's say I put 300, 3000 for example. Okay, we'll delete 3000. So let's say I run 3000. See, one row inserted, right? All right, and then if I select star from departments, I should see this one row which I just inserted. It does not, because I have more rows, and it's selecting only 28. Oh, it has here 3000 right here on top. Okay, right here on top. See, it is giving me random result. It's not ordering by department ID, rather it's ordering by the time I am inserting the record. Anyway, so it has inserted. Now inserting rows with null values. This is exactly same thing what we learned. We can insert rows with the null values. As long as that particular column is not a required column, not a primary key, okay, and it can take the null, I can add the column. Okay, now 30 must already be present, so it will give me an error. Let's say 300. Okay, and I'm putting the purchasing there. Okay, one record inserted. Let's say select star from departments and run this, and it gives me 300 purchasing, and manager ID and location ID it's putting null. Why? Because these are optional columns. Okay, so this is one way where I have not put the manager ID column name and location ID column name, and I am not passing the values as well. Okay, another way of doing that is I can give manager ID here and location underscore ID here, and then I'll just pass null. Okay, that is another way of doing it. So like this, and insert it, right? Similarly, what else I can do is if I have only 4 columns and I am inserting values to all the columns, okay, not just the 4 columns, but let's say I am inserting values to all the columns, then I don't even need to put these column names. Okay, these are optional. Then I don't need to put the column names as long as I am giving values to all the columns and in the same order, as they are created in the database. Okay, if I am passing in the same order as they are created in the database, then I do not need to give the column names. Okay, but you should always give the column names. Okay, because sometimes we make mistakes. Instead of the department id, I will pass manager id, and then I will get confused. Okay, so always give the names. See, it has inserted the record. Okay, always give the names, column names, when you are inserting the record. It is very rare that you are going to be using them. Now you can always copy, create the insert from another table. Okay, we are just going to finish the insert for today. So like, let's say I have another table, sales, instead of sales name, let's say vd employee id, employees. Okay, yeah, so I am inserting into, let's say, employees. Okay, and these are my columns that I want to insert the record. And what I can do is I can insert based on a query. Okay, so I can insert all these records, whatever records that I'm going to get here. Okay, I can insert them into another table. I can insert them into another table. Okay, or maybe the same table. So I can do that as well. Okay, so using the select statement, so insert into employees, syntax is same. You pass the column names. If your column names are only, you have only these four or whatever you have selected here, if you have the same column names and in the same order, then you don't have to even pass that. Okay, I know my column employees have more columns, first name, last name, and all that, so it will fail. But if you have the same column names, all the column names in your select statement, then and in the same order as stored in the table, then you do not have to pass this. Okay, all right. We will learn update in the next class. Update, and then we'll do some create tables as well. Okay, and then we'll see how to create the table with the foreign key and with the primary key. Okay, so next class, we will not have next class um, on Sunday. Okay, Sunday we will not have class. We will have next class on Tuesday. Okay, and why? Because first I want to give you guys some time to practice your to do your exercise and to practice on these. We have completed the analytical the major portion of the analytical part of the SQL, and we have completed the entire SQL query portion. Now whatever left is basically not required for your analysis. Okay, these are just creating the table, deleting the table, updating the table, and so on, and which we will just see as a syntax, because you should know how to do that as a syntax. Okay, um, and in the next session we will also learn some more analytical functions only. Okay, those are specifically analytical functions. Those are complex functions but analytical functions, and we will see them. Okay, we will also see, for example, I want to show only 10 rows, right? Only first 10 rows, or my top 10 top 5 rows, like that. So we'll see those are purely based on analytical queries. Okay, and we will also learn more about data analytics in the next session. So next session we will talk purely about data analytics after we complete this our learning of our syntax of insert and delete and DDL and DML. Okay, so we will do that on Tuesday. All right, guys. Do you have any question? Let me know and do your exercise. If you get stuck anywhere in the exercise, do send me and then I will reply you back. Mostly I will reply you back because we are not having a session on Sunday. Then I will reply you back so that you can continue. Unless you have like a lot of doubts and then I need to be present there. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.